عباده الذين اصطفى ولا سيما سيدنا محمد المصطفى صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله أهل الوفاء، ورضي الله عن أصحابه وأحبابه وأزواجه ومن بآثارهم. Today, inshallah, we're continuing with what we started some time back when we left off. Today we'll talk about two stations. The station of Tawakkul and the station of Tafwid. Both of those stations are stations that are necessary on the way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يعني the journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. طبعا التوكل Allah جل جلاله commanded that explicitly في القرآن الكريم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وعلى الله فتوكلوا إن كنتم مؤمنين. Allah says, which means tawakkul means reliance. Like, this is a general meaning. It doesn't really mean that necessarily. We'll talk about the meaning exactly. But طبعا Allah in the Quran said something else as well. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن يتوكل على الله فهو حسبه. Whoever relies on Allah, Allah is sufficient for him, or Allah will suffice him or her. That's even more accurate and more, not any more accurate, more to the point. طبعا tawakkul in the understanding means that you actually put someone else to handle your affairs. That's why a lawyer is called wakil in the Arabic language. You go and hire a lawyer, you're hiring a wakil, someone who becomes your wakil before the judge. Yani he handles your affairs and you are satisfied with the way he handles your affairs. That's why we call from tawakkul wakala or wikala. Wakala means that somebody is in charge of what you're doing. You defer what you have to him and you're happy with the way he's doing things. You have trust in that. That's the meaning of tawakkul. So again, now we understand what we mean by when we say reliance. It's not necessarily reliance in its what first comes to you, but it is deferring that to someone you trust. طبعا منزلة التوكل or مقام التوكل, the station of tawakkul on Allah, is among the most difficult stations to the beginner and the easiest to the advanced. The most difficult to the beginner is to actually do proper tawakkul, and the easiest to the advanced. Why is it very difficult to the beginner? Because the beginner thinks that he really owns something. He has something. Yani people think that they actually own their money, or they actually own property, or that they actually own anything. They own something. Or that they get money because of their wit and riz and their wit and smartness and skills that they acquired. Though they know that some people have much less skills than they do and they have more money. So it's not necessarily related to skills. Not moving away the cause and effect here. But again, we're trying to talk about tawakkul. At tawakkul then, obviously you're saying, I don't need to be doing this, I will defer it to someone else. The problem with the reason it's difficult for obviously the beginner is because the beginner thinks, the one that's going to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, thinks that they have min al-amri shay, they have something. Hatta salah, they do it. They feel, I'm doing salah. Why I'm doing siyam? Yani I am doing. Versus Allah tells His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, wal ayah fi Ali Imran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, laysa laka min al-amri, laysa laka min al-amri shay. You don't have anything in your hands. That's to His Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now, if the Prophet ﷺ is that, then obviously there's nothing really in your hands. You give deferment, or you do give tawkeel or wakala to someone, that is if you really have something that you really have. Not if you don't have anything, including yourself. You yourself are not the property of yourself. You are the property of Allah. Allah sani'uk. You are the sun'ah of Allah. So you can't even defer yourself to yourself, let alone defer other matters to Him in the sense of actual tawakkul. Because you give wakala, or someone becomes your wakil on something you own, not something you don't own in the first place. And what do you really own? Nothing. Except your amal. But even your amal, we'll talk about. طبعا التوكل is coupled with الطلب. طلب means seeking the effort. What does that mean? Yani you all know the incident, right? The man who came with the camel and left the camel and tawakkaltu ala Allah. And the camel, and he's doing the salah, and the camel now is going in the desert everywhere. I mean, what do you expect the camel to wait for you? What do you do? يعقلها وتوكل. Tie the camel and say tawakkaltu ala Allah. Not that your tying is the actual effect, but your tying is the obedience of Allah that asked you to follow the cause and effect. But the one who protects is Allah, and the one who preserves is Allah. The one who preserves you and your camel is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Allah ordered you in order for you to have a productive day, for example, to sleep. وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ لِبَاسًا. You have the night sleeping, rest. That's just a cause and effect. كُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. Eat and drink, but don't go to excess. Cause and effect. Now He ordered you to follow the cause and effect, but He didn't tell you to believe in the cause and effect. Difference between following the cause and effect laws that Allah created and believing in the cause and effect laws that Allah created. The belief is in Allah. Following, no problem. That's why every now and then Allah shows you in one way or another that the cause and effect are not necessarily consistent. That's why the water did not drown Musa, and the knife did not kill Ismail, and the fire did not burn Ibrahim. So tawakkul must be accompanied with what? With putting the effort. That's why you don't just say, oh Allah, give me rizq, but you seek rizq. That's why you do sa'i. You go and try to work. If you don't work, then you're not reaching that rizq. But obviously in the general understanding of tawakkul is to realize that your rizq and everything that you may have is really the property of Allah. He's the sole owner of you and everything else. And His ownership is not subject to association or partnership. You don't become an associate with Allah in owning anything. His ownership, His mulkiyya is mulkiyya to izzah. Is ownership of izzah, of sole property, sole ownership. Realizing this, then you realize that Allah is the owner of everything, and أَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا جَعَلَكُمْ مُسْتَخْلَفِينَ فِيهِ. You spend from that which He made you in charge of temporarily. So basically that realization, again, the realization that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you say deferred, instead of you deferring the matters to Him, He deferred some matters temporarily to you in a very relative way, not really in a real way, in a sense. All right. I think that should be enough for the tawakkul in the sense, because if you say, I'm gonna do tawakkul, I'm gonna defer this matter, tawakkul on Allah, in something that is His anyway, wasn't that something that you're doing to deferring to Allah? Wasn't it His before you were even created? طيب. لا إله إلا الله. With that, I think it's then realizing this point, I think is very important. That moves us to the station of tafwid. Tafwid means submission, and it's wider than tawakkul. Tawakkul is more narrower than tafwid, and Allah said in the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَأُفَوِّضُ أَمْرِي إِلَى اللَّهِ, and I submit my affairs to Allah, the meaning of the ayah. He said that talking about the mu'min of al-Fir'aun, one of the persons who believed among the family of Pharaoh. He said, وَأُفَوِّضُ أَمْرِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. At-tafwid is more as altaf from tawakkul per se. Why? Tawakkul, reliance on Allah. Yeah, you rely on Allah or you defer matters to Him. Tafwid, you submit. So you see the difference between deferring things to Him versus submitting to Him. Also, submitting is wider. Also, a tawakkul is usually after you do things. So you do something and you say, now I rely on Allah, tawakkaltu ala Allah. And again, tafwid, submission, is before and after. I submit everything to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So submission is the essence of surrender, basically. Or the essence of submission is surrendering. Rather than deferring, is surrendering. طبعا tafwid means what? When you say, I surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it means you declare yourself powerless. I have no hawl and no quwwah. That's the meaning of la hawla wa la quwwah. Hawl means strength. I have no strength, I have no might, illa billah. So now you realize that no matter, you have really no nothing here in a sense. Without putting yourself in a position that's saying, I did this and now I'm deferring it to Allah. It's with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Without going there, I'm submitting myself and everything to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because tawakkul is that you have a wakil, and that Allah is your wakil in this. Taban, in the general meaning is proper because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed you to say that. Had Allah not allowed us to say Allah is our wakil, it would have been daring of us to say Allah is our wakil. Is that meaning understood? Yani Allah allowed us to say Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil. Had Allah not give us this precedence, it would have been daring of us to say that He's our wakil. Wakil on what we and what we own and everything about us is His in the first place. But because He subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this, so it's okay. Now tafwid becomes, there's no daring in the sense, it is actually exiting the delusion of your might and the delusion of your power totally, entirely, and submitting it completely to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, in that, that means in tafwid or in submission, one then doesn't really, is not selective or not suggestive to Allah. Yani, which means what? Not suggestive. Yani, is not suggestive to Allah. Shukran, barakallah. It's not suggestive to Allah. If good things come, He's happy. If not so good things according to Him come, then He's unhappy with Allah. Submission doesn't mean selective submission. That means you still have your mind and will is still fighting. And that's exactly opposite to the point. Why? Simply because you judge what's good and what's bad based on what you know. But what you know is limited. So what's good and what's bad based on your judgment. And had you known what Allah knows, you would have chosen exactly what Allah has chosen for you. So why the intellectual argument and within yourself and the suggestive attitude to Allah that, why did you give me this? You should have given me the other. Now, the objection on Allah only comes from the jahil. So with the tafwid or with the submission and surrender, we have three different levels as usual with every station. Number one, first, the beginner knows that when I am submitting to Allah, I don't have a capacity, I don't have a power to start with. Who gave me the power? Who gave us all the power now to do salah? Who gave you the health? Who sent you messengers to teach you how to do salah? Who sent you books? Who did all these things for you? So to realize that truly you don't have anything. It is His grace upon you that He created, He sent, He provided, He sustained, and then He's attributing it to you. It's just His generosity. But you out of yourself did not come up with anything. So the realization that you really don't have a might with which you did things. Because you don't even move because of yourself. From A to B, you don't move because of yourself. From A to B, you move because Allah willed for you to move. So if you are not even able to move from A to B by yourself, how dare you attribute to yourself a power of actually accomplishing or having done? That takes you again to the point of how you ought to be thankful to Allah for things that He gave you. To realize, it's huwa mahdul fadl. It is the pure fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then when you realize that Allah is the one that facilitated for you to come to the masjid, for example, you realize that the continuation, this is a ni'mah, number one. It's a great thing Allah made it for you, allowed you. Number two, to realize that the continuation of such bounty and grace from Allah requires thankfulness. And if there's no thankfulness, then that very facilitation may stop. And if you're on your own, your feet will always take you the wrong place, usually. Also, with the submission, for the beginner is to realize that the mind and everything, to exit everything that is in you and you think that you have, and submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But also to realize, because of that anything is possible while you're in the thing. Anything and everything is possible. Yani you don't become hopeless from Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. Why? Because it's not you anyway, in the sense. It's His. Everything is His. The decree is His. What happens is in His dominion. He is in control of everything subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you don't become hopeless and you use your own calculation in the dunya. It's not your calculations that things are going according to anyway. So that leads you to understanding when you make dua genuinely and sincerely, believing that Allah can change it because He can. As simple as that. Since He is the one that moves you from A to B, He can change anything in you. He can change any situation. The other thing also for the beginner in the matters when we talk about surrender for the beginners is that You don't rely on your niyyah. You don't rely on your niyyah. Why? What does that mean? You're supposed to master the niyyah and perfect it, but you don't rely on it. You say, oh, from now on I will be praying Fajr with 2 rak'ah. I will never miss the sunnah of Fajr, which we should not do. But you say, all right, I used to miss the sunnah of Fajr. From now on I make intention I'll never miss the sunnah of Fajr. Don't count on your niyyah only. What are you supposed to count on? Allah. If you strengthen your relation with Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, not I will make a niyyah within myself. Yeah, you're supposed to do that 100% without relying on it. And again, what I'm saying is perfect your niyyah and do it and organize it and put 7 alarms if you need to. But do not rely on your niyyah, rely on Him. Ask Him with your heart that He wakes you up and He facilitates for you this opportunity to stand before Him and pray 2 rak'ah before Him and make you amongst those who are chosen to stand before Him these 2 extra rak'ah in the Fajr time. Your niyyah is not going to get you there. He will get you there. Your niyyah is important. Again, we're not disqualifying and discrediting the niyyah. No, niyyah is important. Hadith Sayyidina Umar, you all know it, right? The very first hadith of Bukhari. وهو الحديث غريب مطلق through الطبقات الأربعة. صحيح. Why are you not supposed to rely on the niyyah? Because niyyah and willpower are 2 different things. Power is not yours. If Allah wants to move you, move you. If He doesn't want to move you, don't move. So these are very important things for the beginner. Again, when it comes to the station of tafwid or surrender and submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So based on this, you can sort of navigate situations that you go through in the dunya and how you do it. For the middle people in the journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the surrender or the maqam of tafwid is not just that. The maqam of the tafwid for them becomes the realization of need. What do you mean realization of need? Those people realize how needy they are of Allah and to Allah in everything and anything. With good deeds or without good deeds, in a sense both. And when they realize how needy they are of Allah and to Allah, they realize that salvation is not with the deeds, though they must perfect the deeds. But salvation is with Allah's rahmah. And salvation is with Allah's power subhanahu wa ta'ala and maghfirah and kindness. You are with the one who causes the cause and effect. You're not with the cause and effect. The point is not that you remain with the cause and effect. The point is that you are with the one who created the cause and effect. So that realization of need, we are in need whether we realize it or not. Ya ayyuhan nasu antumul fuqara'u ila Allah. Allah said, oh people, you are the needy to Allah. We are all needy. The point is the realization in everything that you're needy of Him. Even when you do your deeds like Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. So I'm bringing you the biggest example, so you don't bring me other than the Anbiya. Then you realize that you're needy. And why is this? Because of the hadith in Sahih Muslim. Hadith Anas. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is talking to Abu Bakr and Umar and all these big people. لَنْ يُدْخِلَ أَحَدُكُمْ عَمَلَهُ الْجَنَّةِ. None of your amal will make him enter Jannah. Right there. What does that mean? Can they now rely on their amal? وعمل أبو بكر وعمر is not our amal. their a'mal are different quantity and quality. He's telling them that only the rahmah of Allah will make you enter Jannah. The rahmah of Allah will make you successful. Again, what that means again is to get out of the trap of thinking that you are not in need, or at least neglecting that you are in need. And the more you realize, the more you're in touch with the need, or with the state of being needy to Allah, the more your relationship with Allah is better. That's the point. That's what I'm trying to drive you at. To have that relation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you are needy to Him. And the last, we'll finish with this one, is obviously the surrender should take you to the advanced level, is to be in the shuhud of, or the witnessing of the sole ownership of Allah over you and the whole universe. So it's a maqam, or it's a station of awe, in glorification of the one by whom everything moves. So you're sort of, that observing of the glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is for the advanced people. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us and you among them. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وآله والحمد لله رب العالمين. Are there any questions? The point that Allah willed for things to happen means that Allah stripped you from the capacity to actually do things.
So what is this taqdeer? What is described as taqdeer?
He knew what you will do with the power He created within you and gave you. His knowledge of what you will do does not necessarily mean that He stripped you from the power to do what you can do with the power He gave you. But He knew what you will do, what you will do. So, and He willed for that to be written. So it's the knowledge of what you will do rather than stripping you from the capacity to do it. And His knowledge is true.
There is a belief that we have to believe on our taqdeer to the, it's a kind, one of the kind of the belief.
Qada and qadar is the belief. Yeah, we believe in qada and qadar means the decree. Decree doesn't mean stripping away from the capacity, otherwise you're a robot. It means you have, no say-so. So if somebody steals, says, Ya Allah, I don't have any say, you made me steal, why would you punish me? It's not me. I wouldn't want to steal, but you made me steal.
If I'm asking for something, or if I'm making a dua, how does the fact that I have tawakkul in Allah, or I'm submitting to Him, if the dua I'm asking is something for this dunya, so how does it relate?
Yeah, you're supposed to make dua for the dunya, obviously, and for the akhirah as well. Remember, among the first things we said about the first level of tafwid, or surrender and submission, is to realize it's not about the situation that you're in, for you really have nothing in it anyway, and Allah is in control of all of it. So when you're making dua, changing that situation is not a big deal, really, number one. And He can change the situation in a way that is conceivable or maybe even inconceivable to you. Number two, dua itself is needed, because dua itself is a way to be close to Him and to talk to Him and to have a relationship with Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the authentic hadith tells us that the dua is the heart of ibadah. Because it is ibadah. I mean, the whole point of salah is that salah in the Arabic language means dua. The very word salah means dua. So dua is sought by itself, because those people who always have a regimen of dua, truly, oftentimes people, they live weeks and months even maybe, they don't even make dua. They don't make dua with their hearts. They make dua with his tongue. Like in those people who actually make dua truly, a moment of truth with Allah, and they make dua on a daily basis, they're much closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Much closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and much more calm and tranquil inside. No. Anything else? I think some food is waiting for you, and so make dua for the deceased, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يغفر لنا ويرحمنا وإياه. صلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد والحمد لله رب العالمين.